7 ways to live life with less turbulence. Life constantly challenges us with its unpredictability. However, there is a way to face it more calmly, as the ancient Stoics taught us. We are not mere spectators, but the main actors in a world we cannot completely control, but we can control how we react to it. Want to know how to live life with less turbulence? Want to discover how to master your emotions and find peace amid chaos? Then join me as we dive into the depths of these 7 ways to live with more calm and clarity. This is the start of a new journey, a journey of control, wisdom, and true freedom. Let's get to what everyone's been waiting for. Take a moment to think. How many times have you found yourself stuck in a cycle of frustration, trying to fix what simply can't be changed? It could be the end of a relationship that, no matter how hard you fought, still came to an end. Or maybe a professional opportunity that didn't go as planned, despite all the effort you put in. Humans have this tendency to want to control everything around them. But here's the most liberating truth you can learn. It's not in our hands to change what is unchangeable. Epictetus, in his timeless wisdom, reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that for a moment. It's not the traffic that irritates you, but how you react to the slow pace. It's not criticism that upsets you, but the meaning you attach to it. It's not the circumstances of your life that cause suffering, but the narrative you build around them. And this is where true power lies. Not in changing the world, but in changing how you see it. Accepting what you can't change is not a sign of weakness, but an act of profound wisdom. It's understanding that some forces are bigger than us. Time, for example. It doesn't stop, it doesn't go back, and there's no point in fighting against it. The same goes for other people's behavior. You can't control how someone treats you, but you can choose how you will respond to it. Now think with me. How would your life be if, instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, you put your energy into what you can truly change, into what is within your grasp? Because that is indeed within your reach. Your attitude, your choices, your response, and that's exactly where you find freedom. Let's imagine a practical scenario. You're having one of those days at work where everything seems to go wrong. Deadlines are missed, last-minute problems arise. What do? You can sink into frustration, scream internally that things shouldn't be this way. Or you can take a deep breath, look around and decide, okay, what's in my control right now? How can I handle this in the best way? By doing this, you turn a stressful situation into a growth opportunity. And don't be mistaken, accepting what can't be changed doesn't mean being passive. It's not about sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It's about discernment, knowing when to act and when to let go, when to fight and when to simply allow yourself to accept. That's the true art of serenity. Remember, not everything needs an immediate solution. Sometimes the solution is to let go, to allow things to follow their course. And you know what happens when you do that? You release an immense amount of mental and emotional energy that was previously being wasted on what is beyond your reach. So I ask you, what is stealing your peace today because you insist on trying to control it? What can you accept with serenity? Reflecting on this is an act of courage and self-awareness. As you practice this acceptance, you'll notice that what once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle now becomes just another part of your journey. Let's learn together to live with more lightness. The next time you encounter a situation you can't change, ask yourself, is this really in my control? If it's not, take a deep breath and let it go. And if it is, act with the confidence that you are exactly where you need to be, doing the best you can. Because in the end, that's what matters. This is the essence of true freedom. Accept without resistance and act with purpose on what is within your control. When we accept what is beyond our control, we take the first step towards a more serene life. But the journey doesn't end there. Because even accepting reality, we still face another powerful challenge: our own emotions. After all, who hasn't been swept away by a burst of anger or anxiety during a tough moment? Think about the times when an explosion of anger or frustration took over you. Maybe it was a nasty comment, a never-ending line, or unfair criticism. In seconds, your body responds, your heart races, your muscles tense, harsh words surface. But what happens afterward? Most of the time, we are left with a bitter taste of regret because we allowed our emotions to take control. This is where self-control comes in, and the question we need to ask is, are we slaves to our emotions or masters of them? Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." In other words, when we act without thinking, driven by anger or impulse, we are literally outside of ourselves. We lose clarity and allow ourselves to be swept away by the emotional storm, like a boat without a rudder in a rough sea. But it doesn't have to be that way. You have the power to regain control. Self-control is not about suppressing what we feel, but about governing those emotions and channeling them constructively. Imagine yourself in a storm again. The waves crash, the wind howls. But you, like a true Stoic, keep the rudder steady, following your course without being carried away by the chaos around you. Now let's be practical. How can we strengthen this self-control? First, we need to train the mind to recognize the impulse before it dominates us. This doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, it becomes second nature. When you feel anger bubbling up or anxiety taking hold, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, does this really deserve this reaction? What will be the impact of acting impulsively? That pause is where the power lies. Because in that moment, you have the opportunity to choose. You can react blindly, or you can take the reins and decide your next step calmly and purposefully. Of course, we're not talking about ignoring your emotions. They have value and are part of who we are. But self-control means being able to feel them without being swept away by them. Think about the times you mastered an impulse and acted more wisely. How did you feel afterward? Probably lighter, stronger, as if you had regained a part of yourself. And that strengthening is like a muscle. Every time you resist the temptation to act impulsively, you strengthen it a little more. Every moment of patience, of calm amid the chaos, is a victory. So, the question remains, who do you want to be? Someone who is constantly driven by what they feel in the moment, or someone who has the ability to stay grounded, guided by reason and purpose? We all can be tempted by emotions. They are intense, sometimes uncontrollable at first glance, but what truly defines your character is how you choose to act in their presence. If you train your mind not to give in to impulse, you become the master of your own life. This doesn't mean never feeling anger or frustration. It means that when those feelings arise, you respond with wisdom, not madness. Let's make this commitment together. Next time the impulse hits, choose the pause, choose reflection. Because real strength lies in mastering yourself. And when you master your emotions, no one else can control you. If controlling our emotions is one of the great internal battles, there's another that challenges us daily: the struggle to stay in the present. Our mind has a natural tendency to wander, to get lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past. How many times have you caught yourself replaying a situation that has already passed, thinking about how you could have acted differently, or maybe worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet? But deep down, we know the only moment we truly have is now. Marcus Aurelius, the great philosopher-emperor, captured this truth clearly when he said, "Life is a single moment. Follow nature and let your journey end in peace, like an olive that falls when it is ripe." The message is clear. Life is fleeting and fluid, and peace comes when we learn to live in accordance with the nature of the present moment. Let's think about that for a moment. How much time have you lost dwelling on something you can't change? or creating future scenarios that may never come to pass. Meanwhile, the present, the only place where we can truly act, slips through our fingers. When you surrender to the now without clinging to what was or what will be, you find a clarity that nothing else can offer. Focusing on the present doesn't mean ignoring the future or disregarding the past. It means acting with intention now, because this is the moment when your life is happening. The future will be shaped by the choices you make today, and the past doesn't have to be a prison, but rather a teacher. Imagine how your life would be if, instead of worrying or dwelling, you fully focused on each moment. How would it be to work, to be with your family, or even to face a challenge with your full attention present? It's in this state that we find true peace, true direction. So next time you notice your mind drifting, whether to the past or the future, take a pause. Bring your attention back. What are you doing now? What is within your control at this very moment? When you live like this, the weight of worries disappears, and you gain the ability to truly shape your life. Remember, the only reality that exists is the present. Let's make this commitment to be here now, enjoying the journey and finding peace in the simple act of living in the present moment. By focusing on the present, we've already taken a powerful step towards serenity. But to live fully and in peace, we need something more, an internal guide that keeps us steady in any situation. That guide is virtues. They're not just abstract concepts or unattainable ideals, they are practical tools we use to face the chaos of life. Seneca, another great Stoic master, reminds us that virtue is sufficient for happiness. This means that when we align ourselves with our principles, no matter what happens around us, our inner peace remains intact. External events may be unpredictable, but how we choose to live with virtue gives us stability. Now, what does it really mean to practice virtue? Think of the Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Each of them plays a crucial role in how we navigate life. When we act with wisdom, we make better, more conscious decisions. With courage, we face our fears and challenges head-on without running away. Justice makes us treat others with respect and fairness, while temperance helps us maintain balance amid temptations and excesses. These virtues are like anchors in the storms of life. When everything around you seems out of control, it's your ability to live according to your principles that keeps you grounded. Now think about this. How many times have you been led by external outcomes, seeking happiness in achievements, material possessions, or the approval of others? And how many times did those things bring lasting happiness? They were probably fleeting moments, followed by the pursuit of the next goal. But true happiness, the one that lasts, comes from living in alignment with your deepest values, regardless of external outcomes. When you practice virtue, you're choosing inner peace above all else. Because in the end, the only thing you really control is how you act and respond to the world. What happens around you is just a detail. If your actions are guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, nothing can shake you. So, the question we must ask ourselves is, are we living according to these virtues? Are we choosing the wisest, the most just, the most courageous path? If so, we're on the right track. And by doing so, we find the true happiness that comes from within, which nothing and no one can take away from us. Virtue, more than anything else, is what keeps us whole. It is self-sufficient because it doesn't depend on external circumstances. Let's practice it above all else and reap the fruits of a life lived with peace and purpose. By living according to virtues, you build a solid foundation. But inevitably, life will still place obstacles in your way. The difference lies in how you choose to face them. It's natural when facing difficulties to ask, why is this happening to me? But Stoics like Marcus Aurelius invite us to reframe that question into something much more powerful. How can I use this to grow? Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, obstacles aren't here to stop us. They're part of the process, defining our path of growth and evolution. Think about it. All the great transformations you've lived through probably came from challenging moments, didn't they? It's those situations that forge our character and push us to be better. The truth is, every difficulty carries with it the seed of a lesson. But to find that lesson, we need to shift our mindset. When an obstacle arises, instead of seeing it as a burden or something unfair, see it as a disguised opportunity. It's life giving you a chance to develop something you may not yet have: patience, strength, compassion, or wisdom. Now imagine how your life would be if you adopted this perspective in every challenging moment. Every time something doesn't go as planned, instead of feeling discouraged or complaining, you could ask yourself, what can I learn here? Or how can this help me grow? This simple shift in thinking completely transforms how we face challenges. What once seemed like an insurmountable problem now becomes an opportunity for growth. And it's not just about getting through obstacles, it's about how you get through them. By embracing challenges with a growth mindset, you become more resilient, wiser, and stronger with each new situation. What once seemed like a block in your path turns into the very path guiding you to an even better destination. So from now on, let's change our focus. The next time you encounter an obstacle, remember, this is where growth happens. The more challenging the path, the greater the potential for transformation. Ask yourself how this challenge can be an opportunity to strengthen your virtues, refine your skills, and expand your resilience. Because in the end, it's not the obstacle that matters, but how you choose to face it. What once seemed like a hindrance becomes a chance to move forward. After learning to see obstacles as opportunities, a new challenge arises: detachment. Sometimes what keeps us from moving forward isn't the obstacle itself, but the attachment we have to things, people, or situations we believe we control. And this is where the art of detachment comes in. Not as indifference, but as a deeper understanding that, at its core, nothing truly belongs to us. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, guides us with the following wisdom: don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well. This simple shift in perspective has the power to completely transform our relationship with the world. By letting go of the desire for everything to be exactly as we want, we open ourselves to a deeper acceptance of life as it is. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. On the contrary, it means you understand the transient nature of everything. Things, people, accomplishments, they're all temporary. That might sound frightening at first, but it's actually liberating. Because by understanding that nothing is permanent, you free yourself from the fear of losing. And it's in this space of freedom that you find true peace. Let's think together. How many times have you suffered by trying to hold on to something that was beyond your control? Maybe it was a relationship, an opportunity, or even a dream that didn't come true. What would happen if you could accept that some things simply follow their natural course? The pain might still exist, but the suffering, that prolonging of pain caused by attachment, would begin to disappear. By practicing detachment, you're not giving up on love, dreams, or achievements. What you're doing is learning to love them lightly, knowing they can leave at any moment. This gives you immense freedom. You start to live more fully and presently without the constant fear of loss. True peace comes when you stop clinging to what is beyond your control. When you let go of the reins and allow life to flow as it should, you'll discover that you were holding on to very little all along. What is truly yours, your essence, your character, your virtues, can never be taken away. The rest? It comes and goes like the waves of the sea. So by cultivating the art of detachment, you come closer to a lighter, freer life. Next time you feel the anxiety or fear of losing something, remember that what really matters can never be lost. Let go of what's beyond your control, and you'll discover a peace that no material possession or external achievement could provide. And we've reached today's last topic: find meaning in suffering. When we talk about pain and suffering, the two often blur in our minds. But there's a crucial difference. Pain is inevitable. It's part of the human condition. All of us, at some point, face losses, disappointments, challenges. But suffering is something we choose to feed or not. It's the story we tell ourselves about that pain, which prolongs the emotional impact and traps us in the past. Seneca warns us that pain is like the battlefield for a soldier. For the soldier, the battlefield is not just a place of danger, it's also a place of conquest, a scene where he can show his courage, his strength, his worth. In the same way, when life presents us with challenges, they're not there to knock us down, but to strengthen us. Now think of a painful situation you've lived through. It could have been a relationship that ended, the loss of a job, or even an unexpected illness. At the moment it happened, it's natural to have felt pain. But what happened afterward? Maybe your mind began creating scenarios, replaying the past, or fearing the future. That's suffering. We get stuck in resistance to the pain, trying to deny what happened or wishing things were different, and that's precisely where we lose control over our peace. The Stoics, however, show us another path. They invite us to face pain head-on, without running, without denying. The key here is to find meaning in what we're going through. By asking yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? You transform pain into wisdom. Perhaps the pain is teaching you to be more patient, to develop compassion for yourself, or even to let go of something that no longer serves your life. When you see suffering this way, it transforms. It stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. The chaos that once seemed unbearable becomes an opportunity for clarity. The pain that once felt like a burden becomes the starting point for your growth. Think of people we admire who have gone through great adversity. What do they have in common? They transformed suffering into something greater. They used pain to grow, to reinvent themselves. And you can do the same. When pain comes, be brave enough to ask, what can I learn from this? Face the challenge with the same courage that a soldier has on the battlefield. Because in the end, what defines our journey is not the absence of pain, but how we choose to deal with it. Facing suffering with this mindset doesn't make it smaller, but it makes it more meaningful. Every pain has the potential to transform us, to strengthen us, to make us more resilient. And by embracing this process, you'll find not only strength but a profound inner wisdom. We are in this journey together. Each of us faces our own internal battles, but the tools to live a more peaceful life are within our reach. As we follow these ways, we begin to see life through new eyes, not as victims of circumstances, but as craftsmen of our own destiny. We become stronger, more resilient, and above all, more at peace with the world and with ourselves. If this message resonated with you and helped you reflect in some way, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This not only motivates me to continue creating valuable content, but it also ensures that you receive more videos to inspire and help you grow every day. Remember, turbulence is not the end, but the beginning of a new way of being. May we learn to surf the waves of life together with courage and clarity. See you next time.